What is a secret you know about someone that could literally ruin their life? A coworker bragged at work about losing his virginity the night of his bachelor party, but his wife still doesn't know and thinks they lost their virginity to each other on their wedding night. It's a very big deal to her and would most likely end in their divorce if she ever found out. He waited all that time. Why would he throw it away on a stranger and brag? That's crazy. A former colleague denied vacation requests for staff so he could instead approve a request for a subpar employee that he kissed at an office party. He's on an H-1B, and if he were fired, would have to go back to India and his wife would find out what happened. He's too lazy to apply for a visa change to get off the H-1B, and is a manager in general. Wow, I have an extremely similar story. Me and a few others, unbeknownst to him, spotted the head of my department sloppily making out with a young intern at a work gathering. He's in his mid-40s, married with 2 kids. He's no longer on an H-1B, but did start out on one. A week later, he asked me to interview her for a position which made no sense, since she was in a totally different department/discipline to ours. AHH, the H-1B. I too was on one. I made it policy not to violate company policy or the law. I could sleep well at night. Then I got my green card. By the way guys, if you are enjoying this video so far, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It will help us out quite a bit, and if you don't enjoy the videos in the future anymore, you can always unsubscribe. Let's get back to the video. My brother had an affair with one of my friend's mums. She used to give him a lift to work when he was 18 years old, and she started being suggestive on one drive, so they pulled over, and you know what? This continued for a long time, over 6 months. She ended up getting obsessed with him, and he blocked her on all social media and his phone and basically buried his head in the sand. Her husband is a huge skinhead scary guy that owns one of the pubs, and her son is a lifelong friend of mine. None of them know. He only told me as she, seemingly, didn't tell anyone. It's pretty weird having such a weighted secret. Your bro is an actual myth. This guy myth. Your comment reminded me of an amusing moment from my father-in-law. We were out to dinner for Mother's Day with my wife's family. At the time only my mother-in-law was, well, a mother. He prayed for our meal, but was getting silly with it, culminated with him praying for all the myth to be blessed. Everyone at the table burst out laughing, and he asked why. We had to explain that he had just asked a blessing for himself on Mother's Day. I'm in the Navy and I know a lot of people who have cheated on their spouses. I'm sure if I spilled the beans at least a few of them would have their lives ruined. There is this guy I know, we have a mutual friend. He used to work for a small garage in a town that had many military families living there, often with husbands away overseas. Women would call the garage asking for this guy to come by their house and help them start the car. They had left their lights on, empty battery, that kind of thing. He'd always come back looking hot and sweaty. Over time it became very obvious, and TT got to the point where someone from the nearby military base called the garage saying they should never ever again send that guy to help start an engine in the morning, or else. Except for the last sentence, all this is happening in reality. How did the military base find out? This is a juicy story. Many of these families were living in the same neighborhoods. My guess is people got suspicious after the same guy keeps popping up at houses where it is known such a family lives, and always one where the husband is away. My friend had his wife's sister long before they got married. She has no idea. I met my wife through her sister who I used to date in high school. Both me and the sister were clean and upfront to my wife that we've had before I started officially dating my wife. Since that conversation it has never been mentioned again, and I think my wife likes to pretend she doesn't know, or tries her hardest to forget. Anyhow, we are happily married with 2 kids and life's good. I think letting her know at the start was the best decision I made. Does the sister her husband know your history? And does it ever get awkward at family parties? not awkward at parties, and I think that's just because me and her sister don't view each other in that way anymore. As for the sister's partner, I'm unsure if he is aware of it, but I guess that's up to her to tell him. Would be a pretty awkward conversation for me to have with him, and luck bad on her if she hasn't told him, lol. I seem to be the only person who knows that I have no idea what I'm doing. Don't tell my employer. Spoiler alert, if you know how to fake it well enough that you've lasted more than a month or two, you do, in fact, know what you're doing. Sincerely, a guy who's about to get a real big promotion because his boss is quitting and will be telling himself this over and over again for the next few months. Imposter syndrome is very common. You might have imposter syndrome. It's a common thing, especially for people with other conditions such as ADHD. Basically, a person with it has an irrational tendency to attribute successes to other factors. So you made the big sale, but it had nothing to do with you. It just so happened that the company you sold to had a new purchasing officer who didn't know what they were doing, stuff like that. But one of the big tip-offs is a sense that you have no clue what you're doing, but for some reasons nobody else can see it. In reality, it's pretty easy for other people to see when a person is lost/in over their head. My mom told me my stepfather is not my stepsister's biological father. My stepsister has no idea. So many green lights. Wait, what? So neither your mom or stepdad is a parent of your stepsister? Is my understanding of step X just horribly wrong? Ain't a stepsister a sister that comes from someone one of your parents end up with? So if he ain't the father, how did she end up with you guys? Probably married to stepsister's mom when stepsister was born. The baby just turned out to be from an extramarital affair. In many states, the person married to the mom at the time of birth is legally the dad, even if not BO. He may also not have found out until much later and have already bonded with his daughter and taken on the legal and ethical responsibility when he thought she was biologically his. He divorced the mom and keep the daughter, which is overall a great thing, although I disagree with keeping secrets that big from kids unless it's 1000% necessary. My adopted daughter's biological mother had severe mental health issues and her killed her. These stemmed from the fact that she knew she was the product of an incestuous and it was not kept secret. I don't ever want my daughter to find out because I'm afraid of what it could do to her psychologically. Consider, perhaps, that mental health is genetic and accurate hereditary health information is important for one's own health. I'm not saying tell her immediately, but that's definitely something she should be made aware of at some point. She knows about the mental health issues. It's the great-grandfather being grandpa that I'm leaving out. Yeah, that's the kind of stuff you take to your grave. You're doing the right thing. The way you phrased it made it seem like none of it was gonna be mentioned, but that tact sounds perfectly reasonable. Keep on keeping on. I learned from my best friend that my cousin, 40 Shem, had an affair with a 20-year-old girl, one of my friend's friend. My cousin is engaged and have 3 with his fiancée. I'm from a small town. If I told someone, it would not only ruin their life, but everyone would so know. His mom is from a high-standing family in the area. It would be a disaster. Oh boy, do I have news for you. What are those news? Before I answer, are you absolutely, positively the only person who knows this? Wait, NVM, I could just reread the comment, my bad. It's pretty likely to come out, no? My friend will not say anything, as he says it's not my family. His friend will absolutely not say anything, as she will be labeled as a home wrecker. My family would hate me if I spilled the tea. So no, most likely not going to come out. One of my brother's military friends me while my brother, his friend, and one of my friends were hanging out playing pool and drinking. My brother knows, because I told him the night it happened. My family also knows. The dude is married and has 3 kids. Initially my brother was furious and talked about shooting the guy, but now they're friends again, and the reasoning he gave me was everybody cheats. Except none of it was consensual, and I'm not a piece of His wife showed up and my people you may know on Facebook, and I've contemplated telling her. Edit. Thank you everyone for your kind words and support. I posted this during an awful sleepless night and I wish I could take the time to respond to each and every one of you. I plan on telling the wife, and yes, my brother cheated on his partner to be with his current wife. He's also in the military and that's how he knows the douche in question. Thank you all again, but since this has blown up so much I'm going to deactivate notifications. I will read each and every reply and will do my best to respond. WTF is wrong with your brother? Yeah, what the Me and my brothers would be lining up to beat someone who's our sister within an inch of their life. Let alone being friends with them. I was by my brother's friend at my brother's birthday party in front of him and my dad. No one did anything. In fact, my brother came over to me and said thanks for being so cool, sorry he's such a drunk. I know an older guy who claimed disability when filing for social security. Says he's in so much pain because of past injuries, he can't even drive. Has his girlfriend take off work and drive him to his in-person SS appointments just to keep up the charade. Has a walker just for these appointments too. In the warmer months, he takes day-long motorcycle rides with her every weekend. He's also in a band, and he stands on stage for hours for every set, maybe once or twice a month. Drives himself to the store, or an hour's drive or so away, to hang out with friends. So much pain /s. The irony is, he used to be a pie, and most of his assignments were basically insurance/disability fraud, and he used to brag all the time about staking out and catching the fakers on camera. And he's just as bad, if not worse. These stories make me so upset because my dad has been denied disability twice already, and his lawyer has been working on a third try for a year. But he can barely walk, hasn't been able to work in 3 years, in constant pain, etc. He's done everything they've asked him to, but are going to make him get more tests done, despite all the doctors agreeing he can't do anything. His back is just bone on bone, he did hard labor almost every day for 30 years, and it messed him up. I don't understand how some people fake it and get it, while those actually suffering are left with nothing. One of my coworkers smoked work. In the last 3 months I found probably half a dozen pipes she's left behind, because she's up to remember to hide them. About a month ago she started leaving these passive-aggressive notes, usually when the boss shows up, about how she's the only one who does her job. I showed her the folder on my phone, and told her, if she leaves another note for me to read, I'll call the boss, then I'll call the HR. I don't give about that job, but I'll be before I'll let some me fired. You're probably letting that of another, potentially less logical course of action by delaying taking action yourself. I was thinking the same thing. Unpredictable, irrational, and illogical. But somehow it makes sense to them. I just ignore them and let them be great, but it's definitely an eerie experience. It's really crazy what that does to your brain. I had someone who I knew, but barely, call me and talk to me for over an hour about how they think the government is in their network. They're watching the phones. There's a keylogger in the router. All of the computers are infected, and they are tracking her and her family member's location. You could tell in her voice that she had conviction and truly believed this was real. The family of a good friend, let's call her Ashley, is very religious. To the point that they only let her go to school or out with people they approved. I was the good girl who was allowed to go out with her to have fun, so I was with Ashley during her rebellious stage in which she got into everything her family hated, got piercings, drank alcohol, dated guys. There was a video of her in a that we had to delete from a guy's cell phone. And even has a couple of tattoos. The point is that she is now of legal age and her family treats her as the exemplary girl, that she never gave problems with the minors of the family. She is in a 1-year relationship with a boy from church that they approve of and with whom she had no relationships because they are expecting marriage. If they knew the things she did in her adolescence, they would completely disown her. She would take away all the financial stability that she has from her, since she continues to live with her parents. And all her neighbors would stop talking to her because her father is the pastor of the church. I come from a very religious upbringing. I've seen this exact scenario unfold too many times to count. When will people learn that suppressing behavior will only come back to bite them? The kids from my old high school that turned out to be the up are always the ones with psychotically strict parents. It's funny because these same parents continue to give my mom on not being a good mother by refusing to regularly read through his messages or texting his friends for him if it got too rowdy, and letting him leave the house to go to our local park whenever he felt like it. I know one guy who cheated on his wife in their bed a week before they got married. It was his bachelor party. I think maybe she was out of town for the bachelorette party and his was in town. I knew the whole group, but wasn't part of the bachelor party. They came into the bar I worked at when half of them were so up they couldn't walk. No big deal, since pretty much all of our staff was friends with all of them. The groom picked up a woman that some of us called Nasty Amanda, not actual name, but we called her Nasty and then her name. He literally said, "I'm going to go her in my bed," like it's something to be proud of. As much as I've known him for probably close to 20 years, he and his brother are entitled bags. There's been a few times I've thought of telling his wife. I'm not the only one that knows. Most of the bachelor party went back to his house after they left the bar. There are witnesses. Another guy I know shot into someone's house a very long time ago. I don't think anyone died, but there were people home. The neighborhood doesn't even exist anymore. It was completely bulldozed, and a strip mall was put up where it once was. So there isn't a crime scene. If I ever did hear that someone had been shot and killed there, I'd be able to tell police exactly who did it. My mom is the most straight-laced, uptight person you can imagine, and she works very high-level financial jobs for the government. If you looked up professional woman in the dictionary, it would probably just be a picture of her. What no one else knows is that she has a tattoo on the back of her leg of a bear with instead of legs, like where its legs would be there are just mats. She wears tights or pants to cover it all the time. As far as I know, I'm the only person that knows about it. She was a very wild teenager and met up with an aspiring tattoo artist Acarando with a tattoo gun in a hotel room to get a tattoo of a bear. When she was 16, the guy got a little excessively creative and gave her a bear with 4 legs. It is so vulgar that, if anyone saw it, I think there's a good chance she'd lose her job, or at least have some serious explaining to do. I once asked her why she doesn't get it removed, and she says it's a symbol to her stupid youth. Some edits. I'm sure I'm not literally the only person that knows, but I'm pretty confident I'm the only significant person in her life that knows, or could connect the tattoo back to her. She doesn't want to remove it, or get work done over it. I think she kind of likes now, truly as a nostalgic symbol to stupidity. She doesn't necessarily go way out her way to hide it, except in front of her parents and near her office, though she doesn't date, doesn't enjoy swimming, and is a modest dresser in a chilly climate, so it doesn't come up very often. I'm sure if a complete stranger saw it, she wouldn't care that much. It's just different with people you know. I don't know if she would actually lose her job, or if she even thinks she would, but I'm sure lots and lots of people would be shocked to discover it, and may think of her differently. I really can't emphasize how out of character the tattoo is for my mom. I asked her if I could take a picture for the thousands of kind internet strangers, and she politely declined, understandably. I know his kink, he knows mine. It's basically mutually assured destruction if either of us ever turns into that big an That kind of sucks. It really shouldn't be that big of a deal, as long as it's not kids, or or something. Everybody funny, Dave Chappelle. I think it's less of I'm going to lose my job and my parents will write me out of their will if they find out and more of I don't wanna think about my brother people in a fox costume type thing. I don't want to know my friends It'll be the first thing I think about when I see them, as it's the most interesting fact I know about them, lol. Dude, right? My ex and I tried one time, and now I think my dad and best friend know, so I'm always walking on eggshells when it comes to jokingly flirting with my friend in case they remember and it's awkward. That's really weird. I know a ton of my friends, and aside from when I think about a specific type of kink relating to tits, I don't really think about it at all or find it off-putting. They're still my friends. But what do I know? Woof woof. My cousin thinks her dad died in a car crash, but it wasn't her real dad. Her real dad is dead now too though. Most of the family knows, but she never found out. Her brothers are her half-brothers, not full. She has no idea. OMFG, I just wrote this on another comment, and it applies here. It's actually kind of funny, because people often think they'd be happier knowing the truth, but imagine if you really did never find out. Why would you want to know? A beautiful lie that you never find the truth to is way better than knowing the horrible truth. I know several people that I work with who have cheated on their spouses. It shocked me as I started working in more established and professional settings how common this is. I was shocked when I divorced my ex at how many of his married friends then tried to hook up with me. I'd hung out with these guys and their wives for years and never for a moment imagined they were cheaters. Same. I have had 3 main employers in my lifetime, and at each place of work, at least one of the girls I work with is having a full-on affair that is at least a year long. It's so wild. I'm only 24 and in a very committed relationship, and I don't know how they get to the point of being so open with everyone about it, except their partner's OBV. My first job out of college, I worked in a hospital. I found out that a group of young male doctors pitched in to rent an apartment that they used as their spot for cheating on their wives with their side pieces. They seemed like such nice, normal guys too, not sleazebags. That was depressing news. I'm reading these, and I bet these wouldn't really ruin lives. My sister's secret got found out and there were literally 0 consequences. Her life is fine. She lives in a beautiful house and has no debt. The secret is she pretended to go to dental school for 3 years after actually going for almost 1 year, just so my parents would pay for expensive private Boston apartments. Then when that worked so well, she did it again pretending to go to ortho school. Then for 3 years she pretended to some to be studying for the dental exam, and to some she claimed she was a practicing dentist. Including her boyfriend. For 3 years. Now everyone knows she's a scam artist, but they just say oh well, everyone makes mistakes and the boyfriend married her. My parents gave her $65k scot-free to pay for the year she actually went. No debt, no love lost, no consequence. Don't go trying to ruin lives, but the point is I don't think these secrets would for the most part be irreparable. My brother did that. Conned my dad into paying for tuition, books and housing. My dad always pays cash, so brother dropped out and got refunds for all except his apt and whooped it up, partying for 3 years. Dad kept asking for his report cards and finally called a professor who said that my brother went to one class and dropped out. Years later, brother calls my dad to boast that he was going back to school to get his degree, thinking my dad would pay, and my dad said, "Good luck to you." Same brother would go to my dad's house and lay in the middle of the yard and scream until my dad threw a $20 for him to get the hell out of his yard. Brother was 21 at the time. We don't talk. This is the end of the video. Thank you guys for staying with me till the end. If you enjoyed watching this, you might as well watch these too.